Are you a painting company that currently uses SmartSheets to manage their projects and is really frustrated with the limitations that it offers? In this video, I'm going to dive into an alternative for SmartSheets called Airtable and give you many reasons why you might want to consider managing your projects in Airtable as opposed to SmartSheets. So if that's of interest, stick around and we'll dive into that topic. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Chris, and I am the owner of Boolean Automation, where our goal is to free you up to do what you love. And the way that we do that is through automation consulting. This is a little bit of an unusual video because in the video today, I had a client reach out to me that was very irritated with SmartSheets. Many painting companies that I know uses SmartSheets, and there is one core flaw in how SmartSheets is designed, and that is relational databases. If you don't know what that is, I'll link a separate video explaining relational databases and why, or for the fact that SmartSheets does not offer relational databases, but Airtable and other no-code, more modern tools do. So in this video, this is a clip from a meeting that I had with a client. This was a discovery call, and they were trying to understand what's the big difference. How is Airtable going to be better or more useful than SmartSheets? So what I'm going through here is a very basic setup of what a potential project management system could look like. And I'm trying to show examples of how you could manage AWOS or invoices and relate people to companies and projects and all that stuff. So this is by no means a finished base that you would manage projects in, but it was intended to give a very brief overview of how this could look before we actually go into building out a full project management system. So depending on when you watch this video, if what you see is of interest, please drop a comment down below. You can reach out to us through our website. But I'm very excited about the potential for Airtable to be a replacement to SmartSheets. And this is just a glimmer into why I think this is going to be such a powerful tool. So stick around, take a look at this conversation I had and how I'm demoing this. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Yeah, but I'll show you a couple thoughts. I made in preparation for this, trying to at least get your mind working in the direction of what is possible. Because I know that when we've talked before, it's like even trying to conceptualize what a system would look like is difficult when you don't know what can be done. So the first thing is, what we would have to figure out is what are the databases of objects that are like each other. So for example, we're definitely going to need a database of people. And the way that you determine if you need a separate database for something is by identifying what are the properties that are associated with all the objects in that given database. And what I mean by that is people have emails, phone numbers, date of births, addresses, credit card information, and projects don't have those things, right? But people are associated with projects. Projects have things like job site address, AWOs, hours quoted, dollar amounts. So all of your projects are going to be in a database. And then you're going to have companies as well. So you could have companies, people, projects for sure. Those are definitely going to be 3 different bases or databases. And then hours would be another thing where we have to see if we could sync QuickBooks time hours to the hours database, So you have a bunch of hourly information, and we would want to associate a given job line or hour entry to a particular job, right? And then invoices would be another one. AWOs would be another one. There's another one that you mentioned that made me think that could probably be another one. Like touch-ups. In my opinion, touch-ups should be they're just another project. It's a quick project, but then you would have a category or a status or a mark of what type of project it is, because you want that to show up in their view of all other things they have to do that week or whatever. And then they go take care of that project. it doesn't have any revenue for us, but it has costs, and people are going to have to assign hours to a project, right? So there's like a lot of things that make a touch-up or a warranty very similar to a project, but we just need to make sure that we can differentiate the two. And potentially, do you want to take the hours of that touch-up work and apply it to the original project to show the profitability of that original project? I don't know. Or you just want to keep track of what was our overhead costs for touch-up work that we did in the last, month. You know what I'm saying? Those are all things that could be determined. So to show a very specific example, or I try to do a couple simple things here, and this might lead you to ask like, oh, what about this? What about this? Which is the point of me showing you this. So like we have one database of people, but we're going to keep track of all people, including like employees and customers and everybody, all in the same database. They're all going to go into one database of people, but they're going to have different types. So we have an estimator type, a crew leader type. You might have like a supervisor type. And then you also just have customers, which you'll have thousands of, and vendors as well. Maybe you have vendors and then subcontractors potentially. It might make sense to break up two separate databases for employees separate from people, but generally this will work. And the reason is because this is your main database of everybody, but I can then look at just a segmented view of that database that's just going to show me my crew leaders or just my sales reps or all my employees combined or my customers. So the thing to remember is that it can be confusing to think in terms of a database, because a database is not designed for interacting with the role or the employee, right? It's just like literally all the data you could imagine about a given employee, right? Or very few people in the business are ever going to see this view, because that would be confusing to see employees next to customers and next to vendors, because customers don't have wages, but employees do. So, you know what I'm saying? So you would, if you were, and this isn't even a dashboard, this is just a filtered view of the database. So hopefully you're not too lost by that over explaining of that. The next thing is projects. So I can have a lead employee designation, and I can go, it's linking to that people database, but it's only showing me crew leaders from that database to choose, even though I'm linking to the people database. So I'm going to say Sean is the lead employee. Then I've got an estimator column. And again, it's only going to show me estimators that are in the people database to link to the estimator column. Same thing for customer. So it's all referencing the same thing, but I can't, like right now, well, let me see, like here, if this is Darth Vader's project, there's no other people because there's only one customer in the system right now. But if we made a new customer that was Chris Kiefer, now when I go to the project, I could associate this project with the customer Chris Kiefer. And are you guys tracking so far?
Yep.
I love it.
So then the other thing is that for a project, keep in mind that we can have literally, like I said, we probably are going to end up with like 150 columns, and they're all specific data points that matter for a project.
Right.
But most likely, like we'll make a really quick example of, let's say that, and again, this is not the same thing as a dashboard, but this is a quick way to show you kind of what a dashboard would be like. But if we made a finance view, I could hide everything except for the job number and the invoices and total accepted AWOs. And I don't know, maybe we want the address in there, maybe we don't. I don't know. But this could be the only thing that's in the finance view is this simplified columns.
Yeah.
If I change something here, and this is actually $4,500, I'm editing that record in the actual database of projects. So if I go back to the database here, I changed that in the actual database. And you could have like your finance view or whatever, how many other ones you want. But then this is where it gets really cool. Let's say that because everything's going to be centralized in this one place, so you have AWOs. So this project has 2 AWOs currently. Let's say that we want to add another one on. So I could link to a new AWO record and I need to create one. So I'm going to call this one, well, actually, just by clicking that, it already labeled it and is guessing all this information. So I can say this new AWO is now $850, and it's going to be 8.5 hours. And this is bedroom. And I'm going to say that I propose this to the client, but we're waiting to get confirmation that they accept the AWO, right? So you can see that the total right here is the total amount of accepted AWOs. So right now there's only $500 that the customer has accepted in AWOs. If I go over to the AWO view, I can see that all these are associated with Chris Kiefer's project. As I accept this one for $750, I can go back and look at the project under that finance view, and I see that there's $1,250 of accepted work plus the $450 that was in the original amount. Right, you can start seeing where this goes. And then if I wanted to go back and said, actually, the client declined the one for $750, but they did accept the one for $850. 500 plus 850 is what it should say. And you go back here and you see that the total amount they accepted was $1,350. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Now, can this then also be tied to PaintScout to where we're not manually doing that stuff, but it's actually just automated from when the AWO is created in PaintScout and sent, or when it's accepted in PaintScout?
So in theory, yes, but it always comes down to, like we've run into with the way that PaintScout is, like PaintScout doesn't have a fully open API, so we're limited to what their Zaps allow us to do. But yeah, you could have it set up so where when like right now, when a project is, what we probably would do is, like when a project is, or when the PaintScout quote increases and we create a new deal in HubSpot, when the AWO gets created in HubSpot, that deal, and then you go win that as the sales rep, we would probably create that AWO in the AWO field and associate it to the correct job. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Or in the AWO table and then associate it to the correct project.
Yep.
But anyways, that same thing is like the same idea. Like if you had, let's say this was just hours and this is a duration. And then we have an employee. Project. Okay. Oh, and we'll do one more for date. Okay, so imagine this is the part that hopefully we can solve this with QuickBooks Time, but ideally we'd want to just bring in a ton of data that says how much did someone work. So it'd be like 1.25 hours. Oh, whoops. 1:15. So that's 1 hour, 15 minutes. And the employee that worked those hours is Adam, and the project was for Chris Kiefer, and the date that he worked it was today. So then back on the project level, you could, well, let's do one more entry here. Let's do Sean and Chris and so we've got 2 sets of hours attributed to this. And again, just imagine there's a bunch more. On the projects thing now, we could have a view here that is a roll up of all those hours. So total hours worked. And this would be a roll up of hours. And now it's going to tell us the total hours worked on that project is 345. But you could also in there say well, let's do this first. Let's say that you have to have these hours need to be approved or something. So you could have a status that is approved or declined. And so we make this one's approved, but this one's declined. You can go and say that we only want to total up the hours of the one where the status is approved. So now it's going to show us the total hours of the approved hours that worked on the job. And then you go back to this other one here. I don't know if we had the hours in this or not. So we had the amount. Oh yeah, hours quoted was 50. So this hours used one, I guess I should have done that thing here. Let's do total hours worked. So this one could then be formula. Did I do that wrong? Oh, this is not a, this is a number, not a time. Hours quoted should be duration. Hours quoted minus total hours worked. There we go. Got it. Okay. But then you get, so the idea of like, if you wanted a dashboard, I'm doing this for hours, but imagine if it was for whatever, any other thing as well. You know what I mean? Anyways, so that's a very brief example. The other thing that I guess I feel like I'm partially like selling you on this. I don't know if you guys had any other questions or were hesitant about something. Do you have any questions on, like, from my perspective, Airtable, the reason I like it is because it's like you watched me in a few minutes here of like, oh, what if we did this thing also? Or what if we track this? It's like anything is trackable. It just requires like intentionality on how you're setting it up so that you could then go through and map it all the way through the process to see how you want it to be presented to the person, you know? And you could do just like I did for hours used, or I guess this would be hours remaining, not hours used. But anyway, you could do the same thing with, like, if there's a material thing, you could have where by default we say that 20% of the budget is material budget, and then how many invoices have come in for supplies, and then we have the remaining percentage that is there. You can also, like, what we would end up doing is making interfaces, and this is where these are like the dashboards that people use to actually do their jobs. So very few people would actually be interacting with things at this level. You'd be we'd like create one for Shell or for Tallulah to do everything that they need to do. So your idea of like filtering to show only a given project or projects for a certain user, you could do that with the interfaces, and that it's just very, very customizable from that perspective.
Well, the data information is super easy to work with, and when I was playing with Airtable, it seemed already easier than SmartSheets, and like what you're showing with like projects, being able to filter it out. And then my big thing is when I'm looking at all the information, I normally, like you said, you don't need it all, and you can just pick what you actually need to see.
Yes. Yeah.
So.
And you can then, like, it's much more useful if you see a bunch. I don't know if I showed this to you guys before, but did I show you the volunteer management thing that I made?
Yes.
Yep, that's why I brought up homeschooling.
Cool.
Yeah. You did see it, Shell?
Yep.
Actually, since you already saw the volunteer thing, Russ, I'll show you this, which is going to be new for both of you. But this is just this will be like the last thing to like open up your minds to something crazy that we could do with this. This is where I keep track of all content that I'm producing. So podcasts, YouTube videos, and my team is referencing this as well. So it's project management, but for videos instead of painting. And so one of the things I can do is that I can show, like in this one, I only want to see pursuit of purpose. And I think I need to train my VA because he keeps messing with the filters here instead of using the side views. But these are all my pursuit of purpose episodes. And then and I realize I've got like 2 minutes here. So these are all my pursuit of purpose episodes. And what I have set up is that the VA will paste the transcript of the podcast into this field. So it's huge. It's just literally a direct transcription of everything that's generated from the recording software. But then what it does is it creates, and this is using AI, so it reads the transcript and it creates 10 variations of the title that the VA can use. And then it makes a list of every single question that was asked in the episode. So just like sometimes for SEO purposes, it's nice to know what everything was talked about on the episode and just output those. And then it makes a summary of the episode. So this breaks down exactly what was talked about. And this is all done with AI just by dropping in that transcript. All this happens automatically.
Awesome.
And then you can create your tags for YouTube, like the keywords that we want to tag. And then it makes a list of every book that was mentioned and the author automatically. And again, so it's like, I mean, what do you want to do? It's open-ended. Like you could start creating and having it do all sorts of crazy stuff. But that's why I like Airtable, because if something isn't possible inside of Airtable, you probably can use like some script and go out and do a process and then write back the information to Airtable. Even something as crazy as this, you know what I mean?
So cool.
So next steps are, I will try and come up with a scope of what would be included and what's not included. And the reason I say that is because you're going to have many things that you want to add after you get to using it.
Sure.
But I just want to make sure that we have something that 98% of painting companies would find useful. And then all the custom stuff that does that's better than any other painting company, that would be like a later project. We just need to make sure that we solve like the basic thing that everybody would want that I could replicate further. You know what I mean?
Right. Have you considered, or have you already interviewed other people like this, whether or not you're offering the offer to them, but just for information to get different perspectives of what would be useful to a paint company?
You and Kennedy, and then I understand the pain of SmartSheets very well.
Oh yeah,
everybody has the same problems with PaintScout or with SmartSheets.
Yeah.
But you're the only one that doesn't use SmartSheets, which I kind of like, because you don't have the head trash of how you have to set up things a certain way, when it's like they're just doing it that way because SmartSheets sucks and they had to do it that way, as opposed to approaching it from, what do we actually need this to do for our business? And then let's build it with that in mind. You know what I mean?
Right.
All right. Well, I will follow up with you next week with like a scope, and we can talk about what that would actually look like to build this for you guys.
Awesome.
All right. See ya. Thanks so much for watching. I hope that this was of value. If you are a painting company and want more automation tips and tricks, please subscribe, like the video, consider reaching out, booking a free 30-minute consultation on my calendar. If you're interested in how we might be able to help your business, we would love to have a discovery call and see if there's an opportunity there for us. Or if you're just stuck and you need a little, help with managing Zapier or Make or some other no-code tool, happy to hop on and see if I can add some value in that 30-minute call. Once again, my name's Chris from Boolean Automation, where our mission is to free you up to do what you love.